Peace and much love. This is Emakhet with another edition of the Awakened Dreamer Summit. And I have the honor to be joined today by Ashely Foreman. Welcome, Ashely.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you. And we've already been just like riffing about the dream world before we started recording. So I was like, oh my God, we got to start recording to get into this. So I really appreciate you being here. And for all of those viewers that aren't familiar with Ashely's work, Ashely Foreman's an incredible visionary artist and is just blows my mind all the time. You just like really inspire me with your art and your visions and your paintings and contribution to the community. So I'm really grateful to have you here and to be able to talk a little bit about just visionary states and how you translate your visions in your inner world into art that to share with the community. So I've been opening up with this question for everybody in this summit just to start, and it's an open-ended question, but I wonder for you, like, why do you feel that dreaming is important?
Well, first thing is I feel like dreaming and our dreaming self is like a huge natural part of our true nature. Mm-hmm. And that it kind of gets sidelined a little bit, but it's a really dominant part of our life. And for some people, it's like the only major altered state that they really ever experience on the regular. And I think there's just a lot to explore there and learn. And I think that there's probably a lot of benefits around it that I don't even understand myself. And that would be maybe a good place to start with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like what I'm hearing too is that dreaming is an amazing opportunity to experience altered states of consciousness without any outside influence like psychedelics or, other kinds of outside medicines. And then like, for you, have you found that like, that people like when you're in touch with your dreams, like you're not as drawn to work with psychedelic medicines, or that helps to supplement that? Or
it's a good question. I mean, they both have plenty to offer. I don't consider one a substitute for the other, but I think that I feel that I receive them as they want to be received. Mm-hmm. And so when a psychedelic or plant medicine wants to be utilized, it will make itself known. Mm-hmm. And when a dream wants to be heard, it will make itself known. And I just try to receive and transmit. But honestly, even as someone who's been dreaming since I was a little kid, my dad taught me lucid dreaming techniques. And I still don't feel like I utilize it to its full capacity. And my most frustrating thing about dreaming is sometimes not really understanding what the dream material was presenting or whether I need to know or not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you feel like sometimes, because we were talking about this before we were recording, like sometimes people like try too hard to lucid dream or to remember their dreams, and then that kind of prevents the natural flow of the dream itself?
Perhaps. I mean, I really don't know. I can't speak for anybody else at all, but I just see that there's cycles that seem to go, and there will be strong periods where dreaming activity is much stronger than usual. And you'll notice that like collectively, a lot of people are experiencing that, and you're just kind of, you're picking up the wave as it comes through. I've also had amazing breakthroughs in dreaming by trying to focus on it a little bit, but I'm just not someone who seems to be very good at long-term discipline on any one thing other than making paintings. Mm-hmm. Instinctually, it just kind of is something that I can be interested in for a little while, and then I have to try something else. And I let it just be kind of a fluid part of creating and staying in tune with my inner self.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that with dreaming as well. Like we were talking about this a bit before we recorded, but like for a while I was like really serious about my dream practice and like I have to do this every night, and like feeling like I was less advanced if I wasn't lucid dreaming, and like feeling like I needed to be in control of my dream time. And actually when I did that, like I'd wake up and just be super stressed out. Like, oh my God, I have to record every detail, or like I didn't do it right if I didn't remember. And it's like there's something about this dream practice that I found over time where I have to, like, I'm asked to surrender to something I don't know and actually just relax into the process. So like if I wake up and I don't remember, like that's okay. And I still write in my journal, but like I'll just write like, I don't remember today, and maybe this is why. Like
beat
the
yourself
moon is
up over
full,
it.
or I'm going through a lot in my waking life, and like there's something about that full acceptance of just where we're at that feels really important in this dream.
I agree. I was like feeling, as you were saying all that, I was feeling how there's a lot of parallels with that and your creative practice and living life, like how these things are mirrors for the larger creativity that flows through our waking life. And so like, for instance, as an example, if I try to control a painting too much, it doesn't turn out as good because I don't leave room for the mystery, and which is like the prominent creative force to weave through me and into my life to make things cooler and even better and more exciting than I possibly would have with my limited idea of what I think that things should be.
So like when you're in your painting process, you find that like it's important that you sort of surrender to the process in that state and like still show up for it, but allow or whatever, like relax into it and allow what inspires you to.
Yeah. And that might be different for different painters. Like people might have different orientations to reality, but I've noticed that for me, and especially definitely a lot of my feminine art friends are more intuitive painters. And so it's like a lot like what you're saying in the sense of like, you know, some days you're going to get the dream and you have the download and you know exactly what to do with it. And all this creative momentum is kind of swirling around. But then other days, you know, you don't necessarily know what you're supposed to do yet. And like you're saying, that's okay. And you don't have to beat yourself up. And I feel that all of these things we're talking about can apply to like how we relate to our reality on the whole with our living, waking dreams and the things we want to do in our world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. I noticed like with like people who are really into lucid dreaming and stuff, like I feel like sometimes people who are too into that or feel like that's the only way to dream that's like the best way, like tend to have more of a controlling personality, or like they want to control their waking reality. There's a benefit to that, but also what I'm hearing is like in waking life too and in creative process, like there's a benefit to sometimes letting go of control and allowing the muse to sort of to be shown something that perhaps we don't expect. Like, do you find that in your creative process? Like sometimes you're in the midst of a painting and all of a sudden you might be shown or like just see a new idea.
Yes. I was actually just getting tea this morning with a friend, and she was talking about her creative process, which has been a struggle for her a little bit to kind of like really embrace that she's an artist and like really dive into it. And she makes these amazing books and like mixed media material that are just like otherworldly. And she was saying similarly how she's actually had this newspaper in the back of her truck from months ago when she was in Arizona or New Mexico. And she finally realized that it was the exact piece of newspaper that had all the images that she needed to finish this painting that she had started, like, or not painting, but it was a book. Like she does mixed media collage and stuff. And, you know, just that whole weave that you know, it's like the material almost gets delivered and presented, but it's a little bit of a game of like hide and seek, and it's fun, or I think it's fun. But I don't know, maybe something that I feel around the whole subject is like power and how we relate to power. And maybe like some people are in the phase of wanting to learn to wield it on purpose, and other people are more in the phase of wanting to like let power just utilize them and work through them kind of with more on an intentional level than on like a willpower, like hands-on level. And I don't know, I like it all personally. You know, like the lucid dreaming is cool, the not lucid dreaming is cool. Like, I don't know, they're just tools, right? Like to kind of dance the dance how you want to. And
yeah, it's almost like with painting, like you have the different colors to choose from and the different brushes, and like they're all the colors can be beneficial, but then it's a choice of like what feels right in the moment to be engaged with, or like there's that theme of higher creativity. There's like what I can imagine with my own will, and I'm like, oh, I want to execute this painting, so I'm going to construct it into a certain way and manner based on like, you know, my power, what I have, whatever tools and techniques those might be. And I'm going to execute this idea exactly how I see it, and I'm going to control it and get it out. Or there's like the allowing, like we were talking about, where you maybe you're not trying to impose your will so much as you're trying to listen and like let the force utilize you to bring through its own narrative or whatever wants to come through. And I think for me, what's most exciting about that is just how
much, you can start to see those narratives show up in all these other places at the same time. And so it's kind of like all these little antennas sort of picking up a story that's kind of out in the ethers.
Yeah, like it's living in the collective, and we're tuning in with something in the collective consciousness too. Yeah, I find that in our council, because people will have similar dreams at the same time, or dream of similar themes, and we can see how, like, there's this space that we're all tuning into, that's collective. And
that's what makes the council so potent. I think it's like this big laboratory, you know, or like it could be an art studio, whatever, you know, you resonate with. But it's cool to see people bring things up and to like hear the work different people are doing in their dreaming. And I don't remember who it was, and I wouldn't want to say their name anyways, but like they had a really beautiful, potent dream of doing some womb healing and then having this like amazing experience with the goddess in her dream. And I don't know, I'm just in love with that. That's amazing just in and of itself. Something about that dream art science is what my dad has always called it. He calls it dream art science, and it's intriguing. I'm endlessly into watching it do what it does.
I feel like dreams can be such an amazing creative muse too, like for the content of art. Like, do you ever create your paintings like based on dreams or visions that you have?
I really haven't made any paintings off of a dream before. Mostly like my dreams will be like pretty pragmatic and prophetic, like little simple guidance kind of things. Like I used to use it a lot to know if I could skip class in college. Like I would know, like, oh, I don't want to go to class today. Like, am I feeling this because I don't really need to go? And it would turn out there'd be like a note on the door that class was canceled. But I could dream that in advance. And I know that sounds like a small, silly thing, but it's still utilizing it in like waking life and like working that magic of being able to know things. And then, you know, mostly it's a lot of my favorite dream stuff has been more like more similar to healing arts. And by that, like all of those experiences and narratives, I utilize those to inspire paintings, but I've never like painted a dream based exactly on what it looked or felt like. And I've only even been asked if I'd done that probably twice now in the last year, but more even in the last couple of weeks by the same people, like you and somebody else who writes a book about lucid dreaming. And so I haven't actually made a painting based on any of my dream experiences, but I thought maybe lately that I might, just because people keep asking, and I have some pretty cool ones that
that would be pretty cool.
They're like really visionary, and I think maybe that's partly why they're hard to paint too, because it's more, you know, I could paint the literal objects, but people might not know what was happening, and it's really more about the feeling of the experience, you know?
Do you feel like you sometimes infuse the feelings that you're having in dreams into your paintings though? Like you mentioned sort of like more of a feeling nature.
Yeah, totally. Like I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I had this dream that I was at like a graduation ceremony, and this was a lucid dream. I was in and out, but I was at this graduation ceremony, and I was with my dad, and he was there, and because he's kind of like one of my major dream teachers anyway, so it kind of makes sense he would be there. And we were in this auditorium, and there was like Smashing Pumpkins music playing everywhere, which I always thought was a weird detail because I always loved the Smashing Pumpkins in college, so it was like permeating through the campus. And so we were in this auditorium, and I pointed out to my dad, I was like, hey, there's this monk over there, and he looks like you. And so we went over to the guy, and we like did a little prayer, and the monk like blessed me, and like we did this little praying, you know, moment together. And then we realized that we forgot some tickets and had to go outside. So we went outside, and I was like, realized that I was lucid. So I started playing games, and I didn't really know if my dad was lucid and really we were sharing the dream, or if it was an aspect of him. I still don't really know. But he was participating in such a manner that I almost felt like he was giving me some dream training. And so I climbed up on this school bus. I was like, look what I can do. I can fly, you know, like, so I flew up on this bus, and then I was like flying up and down, and he's like, yeah, but you can also just turn the ground into like silky sheets and jump off the bus. And so we were just having all this like fluidity of our imagination and like playing with it. And, but I was like, oh, we got to go back to this like ceremony. So we started to go back, and this is where the dream got really amazing. And there was this ram that was blocking our entrance. And I was like, oh, whatever, we'll just fly over the ram, right? No big deal. And so I like rise up in the air to like fly around the ram, but the ram float like got up in the air too, like wanted to battle, like Mario Brothers kind of like battle. And I was like, what? I don't understand, and it just kept flying at me, and like I kept butting heads with it and like bouncing back, and I was just like, speak English, like it's a dream, like that's not an unreasonable request, just speak English, tell me what you mean, I don't understand this dream. And I guess the ram thought that was kind of absurd, so instead of fighting it, I just let go and I surrender, and I let the dream show me. Instead of trying to control the dream like you're talking about, I let the dream show me, and the ram and I like ran at each other, but instead of me trying to butt its head, it just like grabbed around me and started licking my face, and it was baying and making like like a sound like a sheep, and the baying sound broke apart into like a mandala, a fractal, and that became the sound of the monk's prayer that I had just done. And then as that kept spreading, I was like in the middle of this temple, like floating in the air, and my heart was opening, and it felt like a Rubik's Cube.
Wow.
Right? And so like I'm floating in the middle of this temple, and like the sound wave of like that bang sound into the monk prayer, and then into these angelic voices singing that my heart was made of light. And the whole experience sensation was like physical and visceral. And that's what I mean when I'm like, some of these dreams are like, they rival any like journeys that I've even done. Very few of my journeys have been like that level of reality bending. And yeah, so I thought maybe painting that dream would be pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of amazing.
Just the Rubik's Cube heart and like maybe the mandala of sound, but like there's no way to really articulate something like that into like a painting so much,
What do you feel like how did you feel when you woke up from that dream? Did you feel that feeling in your heart of like the open?
Well, I felt elated by having like such a vision, like such a spiritual vision, and to like feel so connected, and like something inside had happened. But other than that, as far as how I saw that radiating out into my life at that time, I wouldn't say that I saw a whole lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Unlike, the one you were pointing out the other day where I mentioned the dream where I was at a festival about like trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing a talk on, and it was about entities. That one has had a lot of overlap, where I've watched that one come into the physical world, and people will be very interested in that becoming real and wanting to hear more about that and about the subject. And it's not even a subject that I feel knowledgeable about.
Interesting. Yeah, it's almost like maybe that dream was a little, if it were my dream, like was more prophetic about, okay, this subject's going to come up more, and maybe it's time to prepare myself for
that more. Totally. That's kind of what it's been like. I've been like, wow, a lot of people really want to know this information. I should empower myself with it.
Yeah. I love the part about your dad in this dream too. Like, how was that growing up, like with your dad being really in touch with his dreams and like teaching you about that? Like, did you feel
you're a little kid, so you don't really know any different, so you kind of take it for granted, I guess. I've realized that it's a special thing that we have, and as even as a family, that we can share these ideas around reality is a really unique, special thing. But because I was a child growing up with it, it was just my nature. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so lucky, It was like, this is who and what we are, and this is what I'm taught, so I just embraced it that way. And dreaming was never like a question of like, do we dream, or do they have meaning, or is it real? It wasn't anything like that. It was seen as a creative activity and something to explore and to play with. And my dad would tell us stories about how he would use his dreams to explore probable and possible realities. So he would analyze different choices he could make in his timeline and kind of settle on what he wanted to experience. And he could look those things up, in his dream time before he decided on what to actually manifest or land on.
That's fascinating. So like, he would say, okay, I have like this way I could go, or this way, or this way. And so I'm going to incubate dreams of all the possible futures and feels right. And wow.
I was a dream. Like, he could sense my presence. He didn't like see or know me, but he could, exploring altered states, could sense like the presence of me and understood what I was and that I'd come eventually. And I'd say the primary thing that was really awesome was that he taught us how to turn monsters into butterflies. So my brother and I didn't really have bad dreams for most of our like early youth.
Yeah.
But I think what my dad said was he just thought that if he could empower us with these things, that he's really interested in this idea called, he likes the idea of a state of natural grace, and that children kind of have this state of natural grace, and that for him, he felt like his job was to help preserve that for as long as possible, because he knew that just like everyone else, we would go through a period of forgetting. And that at a certain point, we would want to remember ourselves again. And he felt like these things could really help us stay in tune with that inner state of our real self. Even as the world might come in and try to tell us differently, we kind of would always have this lifeline. So I think that's probably the primary takeaway for me in my family.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And I wonder, like, for those viewers watching who might have children, I hope that would inspire those viewers who have children to sort of think about that with their kids. Like, would you have any suggestions, like, for parents out there that might be watching, as far as like how to engage with their kids and dreams? And like,
sure. I don't have children, so I'm never gonna like be in the position of saying like, this is what you should do, parents. Yeah. But I've been a child, and so have you, and I know that what worked really well for me as a kid was I was always honored to know that I could do things, like within my dreaming. Like, I was taught that I was powerful and could do that immediately. It wasn't like, oh, maybe one day when you're older or something like that. So that was something that I think was cool, was that I got exposed and I never had this block around what I was capable of. And then secondly, my favorite part, like one of my favorite things in my like artistic journey, was that my family never scolded me for drawing on the walls. I feel like there's something there that is, like if more kids had their own wall to draw on and like didn't get scolded, but they were just given their own wall for their creativity, like I don't know what would happen in the world, but it worked really well for me. So
yeah, there'd be a lot of art in the world. That's something to think about too, because it feels like a more like primal way of creating art is to create on a vertical surface versus horizontal. Like, kids can color. Sure. Paper is like this, where like cave paintings and like a lot of canvas art is actually vertical. So that's interesting that as children we naturally want to draw this way, because
I find actually like the vertical wall makes me feel more free.
Yeah.
It like painting at a mural at a festival, I feel really free and courageous and ambitious, and painting like a really nice panel that I have to like, I'm like, oh, I only have one and it's precious and I want to make sure it looks really good. Like that instills a bit of a type of restrictive force. Even now, like I don't even use an easel at home. I lean my paintings against the wall, so it feels like I'm painting on the wall.
Yeah, so you're still drawing on the walls. Yeah. Do you feel like when you're at like a live event or at a festival and live painting, like, do you feel like you're able to tap into the collective dream that's happening around you? Like, does that infuse into your
painting? Totally. I mean, especially if you have that many people in one space, you're going to pick up on like the group energy. You can't avoid that. Like, you have your own self and what you're perceiving, but you can definitely find that you're not an isolated island. Like, other people come with stories and fill in gaps, and sometimes they'll come up and like want you to tell them about the painting, but you can tell that they're really supposed to tell you. You're like, okay, you have to say.
What are you seeing that?
Yeah, they'll like try to pry out of you, and you're like, no, why don't you just tell me what you're thinking? Like, and they fill in gaps, and it's fun to watch like that experience happen.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've been looking at this painting that's behind you as you're sharing, and oh yeah, and the bear there too. Two wings, they remind me of earlier when we were talking about when we receive a dream and like how to sort of balance the knowledge, or like having technique and having skill and having an idea of what you want to paint, and then also that surrender, like allowing to be shown inspiration. And that bird reminds me, I was looking at it and thinking about the two-winged bird of insight is what I call it. And like one wing is knowledge or like skill or technique, like when interpreting a dream, it's like okay, well, I know for myself that like the house tends to represent my body, or I know for myself when I dream of this person, it represents this relationship in my life. And there's the knowledge of like the symbolism. And then there's intuition. And like intuition is like just in that moment.
Yeah, just like knowing.
Yeah, it's similar to reading cards in that way, like knowledge of a tarot card and what it signifies, but also just intuitively, like how does it feel in the moment? And if we only are operating in one wing, like we're just gonna fly in around in this.
Yeah,
We need both, like work hand in hand, and then that creates this like this insight or this ability to see inside something and understand what it's speaking to, or like it gives the dream movement. So I found with interpreting that that's really important, is to be like, well, I know this is true for me, this symbol, and like what intuitively, like how do I feel intuitively about it, which I feel similar in the creative process also, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I'd say favorite dreaming techniques, like if I were to have techniques that I like to use when I'm aware to use them, I like when I do have moments of lucidity, rather than just going on like a rampage of, you know, manifesting pink afros and flying around and, you know, like having this adventure. I mean, that's how I started. That's what got me into going into it, you know, like, oh, this is exciting and magical. But rather than that, at this point of like kind of making a fuss that I'm awake in my dream, is more like being super chill and watching and kind of like asking the dream like what it's wanting me to understand, rather than like having my way with it.
Yeah,
that's my favorite approach. As far as being able to get a lot out of dreaming, I've been able to work, or you know, find out like major life spirit totems and connecting with energies that way, just by like asking for it, like, oh, what's my spirit animal, you know, like while I'm dreaming, and having like big monarch butterflies pop up in the air, things like that.
So that's one of your animal allies, is the butterfly.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like on my body, and it's in most of my paintings. And yeah, it's like, I mean, it started, think about it, my dad, when I'm like a tiny little kid, taught me that I didn't have to have monsters, that I could turn them into butterflies. So it like, it's a life theme that's really stuck with me around creativity and transformation. And so yeah, it's still like really it's still definitely there. So that's one
about the monarch butterflies too, because they migrate so far up the land, and then like the monarchs die and the new ones are born. So like the ones that start the migration are not the same butterflies as the one who finish, but it's like this generational thing. And that reminds me sort of reminds me of the teachings that your dad has passed down to you.
Right. Nice. I like that. Good connection. He would like that probably. Then the only other thing I can think of that I find really utilitarian with dreaming is writing them. And that's if I really want to start recalling every detail, because I will, and then it becomes really overwhelming to where I don't want to write them anymore, because it's way too much time, but it's effective. And then for lucidity, favorite technique is the clock. Some people like the hands, where they look for their hands. I really enjoy looking for clocks and looking away and then looking back to see if the time changed in some really illogical manner. That works the best for me. So those are my favorite.
Time doesn't exist the same way there, so it's helpful. Yeah, I find the phone to be helpful.
Totally. You're trying using your cell phone in a dream. It's maddening.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. Like recently I had a dream where like the phone had like 1,000 buttons on it, and there were like buttons. I was like trying to get through. It was like so difficult. Wait a second. I don't think. Wait, what's going on? Yeah.
Totally, I can relate to that.
I like that. Like a couple steps back, the technique also just relaxing and surrendering into the dream, because I found sometimes when I become lucid, I'm so excited about it, I wake myself up, or I get afraid of it also, and I wake myself up. And my sister, she's a really avid lucid dreamer. And like as a kid, my sister was experiencing a lot of trippy dream experiences, which is when I was first like, what is this about? Like, how do I help support her in this process too? Like, I didn't have as many lucid dreams, but she did.
Yeah.
And I just saw her recently, and she was telling me how when she's the other night she was lucid, and this man was like coming towards her. He's like an adversary. And instead of like getting really tense and trying to control it, she just like got really calm and was just like, I'm dreaming. And she just relaxed, completely
Nice.
surrendered.
It took a lot of like self-control.
Yeah. And he just like moved in
Floats through. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm. There's something key that keeps coming up, I feel, around like relaxing into the process and not forcing it, you know? Yeah.
I think you're right. I feel like that in life in general.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was also, he's a little younger than me. I don't know if your sister is younger than you, but he was also really like particularly talented dreamer. Just, you know, naturally took it to really shamanic places that were overwhelming to where he wanted to not dream anymore because he couldn't really tell. Like weeks would go by of such intense lucidity that he thought it was real life, and then he'd wake up and have to like live those weeks. Like he went through some deep stuff around it. I don't know what to tell anyone who has those problems.
Yeah. I feel like with especially like shamanic experiences, like I always wonder like why people would want to like pay to go to a class to learn how to be a shaman, because like you want to pay to like have your guts ripped out and like die, reborn, and like, you know, that
sign me up. No,
yeah, like let me sign up to be like go through this.
Out my guts, ready to do it.
Yeah, and the anxiety that comes with that, and that, you know, there's this whole idea of like the wounded healer, like, you know, that sometimes we learn through that deep suffering about important spiritual lessons. We're able to go to that edge and come back and bring those gifts. And it's not for everyone to experience.
No.
Like the word shamanic can be sometimes thrown around to mean like visionary or mean, you know, things like, I feel like there's a difference between like medicine people and shamanic experiences, where shamanic experiences oftentimes are really uncomfortable, and that also like there's something around, I feel, what's going on in our waking life when we're having these experiences that's important. Like, are we experiencing a lot of anxiety or feeling out of control in some way, and that there is a hidden gift within those wounds oftentimes. Like,
absolutely,
while it is uncomfortable, oftentimes when we can relax into it and surrender to it, it can reveal a gift or a treasure in that dark cave. And I feel that's really similar to psychedelic experiences also, that like, you know, some people are looking for or even paying a lot of money for these visionary shamanic experiences and then having bad trips or having harmful experiences, and there is a gift within that wound, but maybe it's not something necessarily to just like sign up for without a lot of caution or care.
I wouldn't know. I mean, like, I feel, you know, some people's lives, and they're like almost like the way we're put together, some people are almost like hardwired for certain things a little bit more than others, you know, and something that is challenging and unpalatable for one person could be super exciting and like life enriching for someone else who gets like really off on it and is like, yeah, let's do this. It's 4 buckets full of like, you know? I don't know. I'm kind of like that a little bit. If you can, there's a part of me that like really loves that space of warrior and like owning it. And but then again, who knows? I haven't been ripped apart every night by Kali until the final night where she decides she's my wife. Like, I haven't had those experiences, so I don't know. You know, there's a lot. All I can say is there's so much I just don't know about a lot of things.
Yeah, that's wise. Totally, yeah. So have you like, do you feel like there's a connection with psychedelic experiences in the dream state, or like, how do you feel those like relate to one another? Like, for those viewers who might be interested in like experimenting with psychedelics, or, you know, are interested in that, like, do you have any wisdom that you've gleaned from your own experience with that?
Well, what I'm like I'm hearing in my mind really strongly is making the connection that these psychedelics and these dreams and all of these things, like, they kind of have this thing in common with the inner vision of receiving an inner vision, or being in touch with it, or healing through receiving a vision. And so like, that's kind of what I'm hearing, is just sort of, you know, how humans have evolved to heal through the inner vision, like that we've been receiving healing visions since the dawn of time and making our art about it and dancing it to try to receive it. And like everything we've been doing, especially what we call these shamanic things, like, I mean, like you said, shamanism is a weird word where it maybe has a specific meaning, but it's a little nebulous in how we use it. And I don't necessarily want to be the one to like define it, because I just don't feel like I'm in charge of defining what shamanism is. Yeah. But I know that there's like a shamanic origin for a lot of things, including almost every art form. And that we've been obsessed with receiving these visions in altered states for as long as we can remember. And like people have recorded, and many people have personal experiences like myself, where you know, you receive these healing visions and you're forever changed. Like you're a different person after that. And so I don't know, I feel that maybe that's what we're really after, is cultivating how to reclaim our ability to see and understand the language that's coming from this other side. And maybe that we're really just looking to forge our connection that's been severed. And so maybe, you know, if you feel called to plant medicines, I think that I approve of that. I fully love and endorse plant medicines, obviously in the right set and setting. And there's plenty of things to learn if you're going to wander down that road. But if you're feeling like you want to try the dreaming, I mean, it's like 100% true nature inside of you. So I totally approve of that too. Like, and then as far as the dreaming, you know, in the medicine, since you're talking about advice, and we were talking about how I recently had the dream where people needed to understand more about the types of entities and like different beings that you can encounter through working with psychedelics and any type of thing, really. I mean, I think coffee and tea and ganja, and I think all of these different things are spirits that attract spirits. They're vibration and energy, so they attract certain energies that like that. And so I feel that, you know, being aware of maybe how to create a space and knowing that you're a sovereign person, and you could literally use your voice and your own authority and intention to like claim your space and maybe like show a little interest in understanding like a little bit about the different parts of your body, not just like your physical body, but like your energy body and those systems, and understanding that there's these non-visible parts to you. And that way you have more sovereignty over that and can kind of co-pilot your experience in the way that's going to be the most safe and good for you, just by claiming that intention, and that you have the power to decide those things. That would be like my primary bit to offer, since the dream time wanted to make sure we brought that through right on the line. Since having that dream, since I didn't know that I wouldn't say that was like, you know, something I'm an authority on by any means, but since having that dream, I've had a lot of cool experiences of like interacting with people either online who that is what they do, like that's their type of work, and hearing kind of their idea for the structure of how they see the body in the world and things. So they utilize that format for their clearings. But really what it seemed like to me was just knowing that you have that power, that all you have to do is just own it and command it. Like you're the queen boss bitch of your universe, or king, you know, whatever, but just like owning that and being like, all right, entity's out, you know, and see where that gets you.
Just bringing it into awareness helps you be able to create that kind of discernment. And it doesn't don't do it. It's just be aware of what's happening so that you can discern or set boundaries when it's necessary, and then invite in helpful ancestors. Like totally, you know, like my mom has an altar for the ancestors that includes like tobacco and coffee and chocolate, because like they liked that, you know, and just recognizing that would attract them, the helpful ones, you know?
Yeah, totally. I didn't even take it that far in my mind of like, oh, I'm going to leave goodies for the helpful spirits that I want to hang out.
Yeah, the things they like.
That's awesome.
My mama also says that, you know, it's not so much in the vision itself, but in our relationship with the vision where the medicine is.
I like that, and I can see how that's true.
Yeah, we work with that a lot in our council calls, and just in the teachings that I apply that a lot in what we're bringing forth in Dream Council. Like as a core intention is that it's not so much about what visions you're having in the dream, it's just having a relationship with that vision.
Right.
That's where the healing is. And and also the relationship we have with one another through those visions is where the medicine is. It's the telling of stories, and
it's stories.
Yeah, which is so similar to your art, right?
Yes. No, you're literally tapping on a theme I've been like hearing myself repeat in my head for the last like 2 or 3 days. Has been like, I'm a storyteller, like just kind of realizing that and not knowing I hadn't claimed that before. And art is narrative, but that's what I do.
Totally. Starhawk says magic is in the stories that we tell ourselves.
So true.
So true. I'd love to hear like a little bit about the story. I know like you don't always like to tell the story, but what's the story with this painting behind you? Like,
well, sometimes I like to talk about it and sometimes I don't. If the moon is in Pisces or Cancer, I don't like talking about it.
Okay, where's the moon?
Because it just makes me really emotional. And I hate crying when I'm talking to people on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
But
this is a Capricorn right now, so I think
yes. I'm in the clear, calm and stoic. So this piece, let's see if I can kind of help y'all see a little bit more of it. See if we can navigate our way up here to our ancestor at the top. So she, to me at this point, and like it's a story and it's ever changing, but what I'm feeling is that she represents the mystery. And the mystery is like weaving the web that connects everyone and everything. And so I brought her down and just literally connected her to a spider web to connect the metaphor. And she controls the timing and the events and the sort of these special connections that happen in our life. And then that's our little Mother Earth there and the spirit there. And I started this piece actually at a workshop I was teaching about, well, it was a combination. I wasn't teaching the shamanic practice part. That was a local lady who was teaching that part and doing the drumming, but I was teaching the painting and art part. And the other piece was just so that people could have their own genuine inner vision and then we could make art from it. So it kind of put us on a level playing ground a little bit. And so I started this piece for them. And so that, you know, the being that came forward for me was Bear, really wanting to be worked with. And it's been a few different creatures each time. They've all kind of been similar in their wrathfulness, but they're not mad at me. They're just like, trying to help me integrate a little bit of that fierceness inside. But this piece has been evolving since then. It didn't come as one whole vision. It's been coming in different parts. And so I feel that grandmother up there is like weaving this story and it kind of draws on some different visionary experiences I've had around motherhood and the importance of the mother, and also like future generations and rebirthing Earth through the womb, and bringing these very potent little Earth warrior baby aliens together. And so that's what this little girl who's like hugging the earth with her like hawk wings and her like peace dove totem, and she's kind of descending a bit. Like there's this relationship here between her and this like mother bear that sort of gets activated within the parents, and how that relationship can just really catalyze a lot of global change. And that's kind of what's been going on for me in this piece. And being that I'm 30 right now, I'm like trying to decide. I'm like, do I want to, you know, cultivate and steward some baby aliens here? Like, or do I want to maybe skip that job and like do this other work? And like, but I'm also feeling really interested in birth work and like, just even the activity of midwifing beings to Earth is really potent. It's like the ultimate ceremony. And so I'm very intrigued with that right now.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that dream story of your painting. And I look forward to seeing how it will continue to evolve. And
Thanks.
I love how it also, you know, it's so much like a dream story where there's so much symbolism in there, and how do we relate to that? What is our relationship with this vision? And I encourage the viewers of this interview to also like ask yourself, like, how do I relate with these symbols and the images in her painting?
Totally.
And how is that meaningful to me right now? And you know, when I see that mother bear, like I just feel that as an aspect of myself too, as well. Of like,
I think almost every person in the painting is an aspect of yourself.
All aspects of ourselves. This sense of like protectiveness of the innocence and peace. our inner children and
Mm-hmm.
the children that are here and future generations, and protectiveness of the earth herself, you know,
Yeah, totally.
and how like our ancestors are also weaving this story for us to experience. And oh, it's just so beautiful and so grateful. Thank you for birthing this vision through,
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you for your appreciation and letting me share it.
You're welcome. It's an honor. So I'd love to offer, you know, some space if our viewers want to connect more with your art or just connect with you in your workshops, or like, how can people find you? How can we get a hold of you?
Well, I'm all over the social media. I think for me, the most awkward thing about finding me online is that my name is spelled kind of awkwardly. But if you know that it's spelled awkwardly, then you can find me really easy. So it's almost like the secret key. My name's spelled Ashely, and the normal spelling is Ley. So when you go to look for me, just type in Ashely Foreman, and you can find me on Facebook or on Instagram as Ashely Josephine. And I got a website that you can go to too, and it's www.1320studios.com, and you can spell that with numbers or letters, and it will get you there. And other than that, I don't know if I have a whole lot to say as far as cool stuff happening. I'm not sure what I'm going to teach the next workshop, but I'm slowly working on just doing little things on just different techniques people can use as just like an online video, you know, not like a class or anything even for sale, just little bits of information. And I'm kind of getting that stuff out there and just building a little bit at a time. And other than that, probably most of the summer is going to be tattooing and traveling and live painting. So as far as studying with me and stuff, you probably won't get to do anything like that till winter.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thanks for sharing those links. And I really encourage all the viewers to stay tuned with Ashely's work. And if you have trouble remembering how to spell your name too, we have another video with Ashely Seasons. And so if you imagine Ashely's name and then just add a Y,
yeah,
get there. So, or 1320, which is really magical. So
whatever works.
Well, I thank you for your time and energy and wisdom and work. And yes, I'm just so grateful to be able to share this time and space together.
Likewise.
All right, until we meet again, there it is.